if you're live streaming, recording video content or doing a presentation over Zoom, BeatSheet can make your life much easier and make your presentations much better at the same time. It gives you a more immersive presentation. It gives you less cognitive overhead to running a stream. And it also gives you some cool little things that you can do. There isn't really a good way to do them in another way. So you can think of it as a smart script that gives you everything you need to run through any kind of show. So as I say, like a Zoom call, a live stream, a podcast or whatever. It runs your teleprompter. It gives you sort of immersive slides like this. So yeah, we can do it. I can bring up some bullet points and these immersive slides and graphics. So I'm not having to run like a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not having to ask people to let me share my screen or anything like that. It just sort of comes through into the content and you can still see me. If you use Ecamm Live, OBS or Mimo Live, and you have a lot of scenes to run through, if you've sort of got a show that has maybe got a little bit out of hand, you can put them into a sequence with BeatSheet. So you write your script and you can just select which scene is going to run. So that could be different camera angles. That could be bringing your guest on after your introduction. It could be sharing your desktop for a segment. It could be showing a title graphic or video or an ad break or something. You could have a countdown timer sort of pre-stream or during the ad break or something like that. So all of the segments that are part of your content, you can just switch through them in order. And if you're using Video Pencil, you can bring in videos and content and things onto the iPad as well and annotate that. The principle is content is not configuration. So what Mimo Live, Ecamm Live give you is very powerful tools for configuring your stream. But sometimes you can end up starting to, I want to switch to this video, but that's only for this one show. And so you end up sort of cluttering your scene list for stuff that's only really part of the content. And you don't really want that to be confused with configuration and having loads of different profiles and things. So if you ever find yourself riding a stream deck or being unable to broadcast without a second pair of hands, then BeatSheet will be a godsend. And you might even be able to, like I do everything on my own, and that's one of the reasons I made it. Or like I'm producing a show with guests. It just takes away a lot of that overhead and just makes it a lot more straightforward to run something. Everything I'm doing today is just Video Pencil, camera, and BeatSheet. I'm using my foot pedal and I'm just kind of going through the presentation and it's bringing up the graphics and it's showing the bullet points one by one. I'm not using any other tools. I'm not using Ecamm Live. It's all just coming straight into Zoom. Let's have a look at what it actually looks like. So this is what BeatSheet looks like when you first launch it. And did you like how I just zoomed in using my iPad to zoom in on my desktop without going to the Video Pencil camera window? Right, this is what BeatSheet will look like. So the first time you'll just see these templates, but this is your recent documents here. Each of my app labs is in my history and all the bits and pieces. I went on a podcast, I prepared some talking points. If I make a demo of something, I'll make a document. So I've got all this stuff, and this is the one I'm actually using right now, introducing BeatSheet. You get some templates. I've just given a handful. So for a basic script, let's say you were doing an interview. So if you click that, you're going to get a template just to give you an idea of what a card should look like. So each of these is a card. And it's essentially like your cue card guy in a TV studio. Each one of these is sort of like the next card, the next card, the next card. So that's how you should think of the cards in BeatSheet. And then it just gives you some placeholder stuff. So you might write your introduction. This is a show about using your Mac to make great content. And then I'm going to go over to the next one. So you'd have segments. So today we're talking to so-and-so, write their intro. There's an online educational workshop host. And then question one might be, what are the benefits of having a co-presenter? How do you use these? So you can sort of come up with a couple of questions. You can remind yourself what to ask at the end. You can put your links and things in there. Like I had an intro for a podcast, so I put that in so I didn't have to learn it off by heart. Then with this, you can also have, let's say, getting to, know you, but you could make that into a title. And now it's not only going to help you organize your document as you get sort of titles down, and I'll show you what that looks like in this case. I've got all my titles and I can navigate through my content with these. But these are also going to go onto the slides. And you can hide this sidebar as well. You don't need it. If you've got Ecamm or Mimo running, you can select that up here, which tool you're using, and then it's going to show you all of your scenes. So here are all my Ecamm live scenes. So I've got all my different camera angles, my screen shares, I've got my different app selections, I've got my intros and outros, I've got my, some bits, and I've got podcasts, like all the different segments of some different podcasts, and I've got like random little different videos as well that I can load in there. And then the all-important thing here is this play button. It should probably be bigger. This is the thing. So when you're ready to go, you're just going to hit that play button. I am a bit scared to press it because it's going to change my teleprompter, but you're just going to go next through each segment, and it's going to automatically select whatever scene you need, and it's going to show the title. So you see this is showing the titles of the scene that's selected. That's your sort of basic smart script. So it's going to let you switch scenes. It's going to give you your teleprompter. It's going to give you all the stuff you need to run your show. The process of running a show is basically you load up your beat sheet document, you press start, and then you're just going to like hit next as you go through each section, right? I use a Stream Deck foot pedal. That's what I'm using here. Or like I have a mini Stream Deck as well, which, you don't really need a lot of buttons now that you're using beat sheet. So I did just get the small one. And there are keyboard shortcuts for everything. If you just look in the menus of beat sheet, you'll see here's what the keyboard shortcut is for next, back, and stuff. There's also a Stream Deck plugin that you can install that gives you those basic controls: forward, back, start, stop. And then also, like if you do use shortcuts on a Mac, it comes with its own like little set of shortcuts. So anything that can use shortcuts for Mac can like hook into this as well. So you see all the other apps on my computer are sort of represented here, but beat sheet is in there. The point is you just want a button you can press to go to the next segment each time. To get started, the first thing you do is you download beat sheet from Squares TV. It's a free trial, so you just sort of get 3 segments and you can see if you can get it connected and get it working. And then there's like a Stripe one-off payment, lifetime purchase that will get you started. It is very competitive with another piece of software that I found price-wise, which I forget the name of right now, but like for theatre productions, but it does all these cues and things. And this is a similar thing, much easier to use, about 1% of the price. And then you can get Video Pencil Camera, and that's available from the App Store for free. And what that's going to do is give you a virtual camera, and it's going to just bring in the titles automatically. And it also connects to your iPad if you're using Video Pencil as well. And it provides like a conduit for shortcuts and things to come from beat sheet to the iPad. So you'll probably get Video Pencil Camera one way or another. You don't need it if you're using Ecamm Live or OBS or anything that supports NDI or Siphon, and you could even send these title graphics over the network to another machine if you wanted, depending on what your setup is. But the very simplest way, get beat sheet, get Video Pencil Camera, and you're just going to be good to go straight away. You just select that Video Pencil Camera in Zoom, in like, wherever. So yeah, recording. How do you record a session? You can just use QuickTime Player. Because Video Pencil Camera uses a modern virtual camera driver, you can just select that in QuickTime, which actually, like OBS Virtual Camera, I don't think Ecamm have updated theirs to work with QuickTime yet either. It just means you can record straight into QuickTime if you want. Or you can, if you want to do it for free, you can get OBS and you can take the virtual camera out, and you can decide whether you want to do your own compositing within OBS and, sort of put the title graphics yourself, or if you just want it, Video Pencil Camera to do it for you. And then, of course, like Ecamm Live, Mimo Live will give you the really rich experience. So you'll have a lot more control over your scenes and graphics and titles and progression. I mean, OBS gives you a lot of that as well, but the paid ones are probably going to be a lot more fun. And I would say, like, this app did originate from Ecamm Live, and Ecamm Live does have a little bit of an edge so far. But we've had Oliver on, and we've talked about some things we can do with Mimo beyond just selecting layer sets. And if you want to use it on calls, use Video Pencil Camera. So that just gives you this, the virtual camera. You can just select that in Zoom, you can select it in Google Meet, you can select it in Teams, you can select it wherever, and that's going to give you the graphics in there. Like before I made the graphics, I had Keynote running, I had like a big green background, I had Ecamm Live, actually I think it was OBS, I was chroma keying Keynote and then making the virtual camera the composition, but it's like a green background, which means if the color green is on anything, it doesn't work. This just gets rid of all that. You don't have to muck about with Keynote. You can just edit these cards, put pictures in there. You don't need a super complex presentation, especially when everyone is just looking at you. They're not looking at all of it. So this sort of has some best practices about how to talk built into it as well. But anyway, you get Video Pencil Camera. It'll just take care of all of that for you. Or you can use streaming software, virtual camera. So you can use OBS, you can use Ecamm Live's virtual camera, but you may have to like add the NDI or siphon stuff yourself. But you can also use those with Video Pencil Camera. And then if you are doing live streams, you would use Ecamm Live, you would use Mimo Live, you would use OBS, you might use StreamYard, and that's in a browser. It will see Video Pencil Camera. You can just select it in there. Obviously, StreamYard, you can't like remote control or anything. There is code inside BeatSheet that connects into these different apps and knows what to do with them, so that first-class citizens. Then there's loads of other streaming, if you download the Twitch app, which is a skin of OBS Studio, or there's Streamlabs, there's all these different ones, but they're all sort of the same thing really. So now that you've got your basic software in, if you have a teleprompter, you'll set that up too. The best way is with an external display that can be flipped. I use Duet Air on an iPad. I've got an iPad mini. It's too old for this Apple Pencil, so now it sits in the teleprompter. The nice thing about using an iPad is you actually get really good color and resolution, which, I've done it with like a little HDMI monitor, but the resolution wasn't great, the color wasn't great, and the one I had, I couldn't actually flip. So what you'll do is you'll load up the BeatSheet HUD. You just show the HUD and it's going to show you a window like this, which is a transparent window that you can drag into your teleprompter screen. And it's just completely transparent. This is with the mouse over. It's got a little bit of a background on it, and so that you can see the window. But as soon as you move your mouse off, all you'll be able to see is this and this. And what you can see is your current card. So what you've put into that card on BeatSheet. So you can read off that. And it also gives you a little heads up of what's happening next. Okay, this is what my next card's going to say. So I can just glance down there. And it also has a timer. So once you press start, the timer starts clicking up and you can see how long you've been talking. If you don't have an external display that can flip the image, you can actually just flip it within the HUD. So it's actually possible to do it without Duet Air or something like that, and you can just drag it onto whatever rudimentary HDMI display is, and then you just like your mouse pointer will move the wrong way when you're trying to drag the window, but it works. Like you'll just see yourself mirrored, you'll see your guest still, and so you could just plug in any cheap little HDMI monitor and put it into your teleprompter, and you just drag this on and just flip it with the menu, and it's just going to be back to front. And of course, if you use Shoot, you have the option of showing it directly inside Shoot. So BeatSheet will connect wirelessly into Shoot over Bluetooth, and it will send your teleprompter straight into Shoot. So if you just wanted to stick your iPhone on the back of your Mac, use the front-facing camera. This is where the camera is, and if the text is there, then it basically looks like you're reading into the lens. Funnily enough, like if it's there, if it's a bit higher, then it stops looking like you're talking into the lens in the same way. So you are able to move that up and down as well if it's not quite right. And each of the phones, the camera can be in a different position, but that's an option. You can just do it with Shoot, and you don't need any extra stuff in Shoot, but as long as you've got a BeatSheet license, you paid for BeatSheet, you don't need to buy anything else in Shoot. So how do you approach writing a script? I think one thing to really get the hang of is the keyboard shortcuts. Just you want your hands on the keyboard as you're writing, and that's something that BeatSheet makes very straightforward. So if we come back to the desktop and have a look at my dodgy little document, maybe I'll just start a fresh one. And these are just obviously files on the file system, so you can save as and do whatever. So if we start with a fresh document, this is my first card. And then I can just hit add, and that gives me a second card. And if I change my mind about the order, I can just drag them, change the order of the cards, no problem. If I had another couple, I can multi-select cards and just sort of like move them above and just rearrange everything. But if you're into a card, you can press tab to move to the next one. So I'm pressing tab, that's moving the cursor down, down, up, up, up. If I want to add a card below this one, I can just press Command Enter, and that gives, Command plus Enter gives a new card. And if I just click on the card like this, it's selected, I can press delete, and that deletes it. So Command Enter, hello, Command Enter, hello. So you see we're sort of like starting to write our document, we're navigating around it, it's all going very nicely. While you're doing this, you can have your teleprompter up and you can be watching it changing in real time. You can sort of see like what that looks like on the window. So that's the HUD, but I need that in my teleprompter for now. If one card does end up getting a bit busy, you can just select some text and go Command-Alt down, and that will just move that into the next card. So you can just split the cards like that as well. That's in the menu as well. There's an edit menu that shows it all. And then you can sort of multi-select into all these things with the keyboard to select these different cards. If you prefer to edit your script elsewhere, something I can show you is I can actually copy a script. Do copy all. It's just going to copy that all as text. Let's try to sort of move out a bit. So I'm in the Notes app here. So say you started your script in the Notes app, we can just paste that all in and it looks like that. So that's all of your text right there. But let's say I just want to like put some of that in. So I select a few. I come into Beatsheet. If I'm in a card and I press paste, it's just going to put that all in one card. But if I have a card selected, or if I have no card selected by pressing escape, let's do it with this one. If I just do paste now, it's going to break it up into separate cards. Look. So I was able to edit a big document somewhere else and even saw the bullet points and preserved those, and they will come through in the graphics. You know, I use this all the time. So I've made sure that the editing is pretty comprehensive. I want it to be snappy, fast, easy. Like I don't want to be overwhelmed with a load of stuff. So that's what that looks like. So the next thing you can do, let's come back to the desktop. We can add titles. So how do we do that? Well, one way is there's a little button down here. If you can see that, it's quite small. Maybe we'll zoom right in. So I can click on that, and that gives me a slide window. And that's where we can add a title. This is my title. Okay, and you see now we have an area up here, which is the title. And you can change the position of the title by clicking on these different buttons. And if you want to know what it's going to look like, I'm going to put this on the bottom. I'm going to just press the space bar, and that's going to show me this is my title. Zoom out a little bit, and I can see what that's going to look like. Another way you can add titles is, let me just try and bring this back into position, is to just go edit selected text to title, or you can just do Command-Shift-T, and that will just promote that selected text into a title. So that's a really quick way of doing it without taking your hand off the keyboard. So if I scroll around, let's add a couple of more. Let's see, let's make that a title. And then if you go to the sidebar, you can now navigate around your document with these links as well. So everything that's got a title is now clickable in that sidebar as well. To add images, you can click to add a slide. So the same way as before, there's a little button, click, and you can just drag an image in into there. Or, if you want to be even fancier, you don't even have to pop that up. You can literally just drag an image from your desktop. If it's highlighted in green, let go, and now there's an image on that slide. We see that's going to be on the left according to this icon. If I press the space bar, so that's now going to come in over the left. And this is what a beat sheet is according to my website. So you can just drag in a picture and just sort of set the position. If you have made a slide elsewhere in another tool, just export them out as 1080p images with a transparent background, and you can just drag it on and then just make sure full screen is selected there, and that's going to fill the whole screen, and it's going to be the right aspect ratio, and it's going to look great. If you did want to use Canva or something to make your slides, you could do that, no problem. You could put your deck together within Beatsheet, and that would work fine. How do you make Beatsheet switch scenes? Literally, there's a drop-down menu that appears. So first you select the tool you're using. I've got Ecamm running, so it's seeing all of the different scenes, and I can just select one there and it will just go in. I will select it, but then I will sort of like cancel that because I don't want it to start driving Ecamm when I don't want it to. So you see now, instead of having to remember what button to press for each section, you just queue it up in here and forget about it. Like, you know that you're going to be in the right section now. If you use Ecamm Live, you get this nesting, which you don't get in the other ones because they don't really have the nested scenes in the same way. Otherwise, you get a flat list. Mimo Live, they're not called scenes, they're called layer sets, but it's the same principle. Scene switching best practices, I use like one big profile. I used to have different profiles for different content. And so I'd have two different podcasts. I'd have different profiles basically for different shows. So the profiles were becoming the content, but that was wrong. So now I just have like a generalized Ecamm Live profile, which has all of my different scenes that I might need. And it's just much easier to work inside Beatsheet and queue up the scenes from there, knowing that I don't have to like map every scene onto a button on the Stream Deck anymore. I can just like assign it in Beatsheet. This is my organization, and it's one that I would probably recommend. I've got like my blank one when there's nothing happening, so it's quite nice to fade from black if you're starting. Then under general, I've got all my different camera angles, desktop, the different cameras, the different things like that. I've got different apps that I might want to focus in on for different demos. I've got intros and outros for things. So if I want a video pencil ident on the end of a video, I can make it play that when I finish. Or if I have any other branding that I want to show off, I can do it there. Then I've got my different shows have their own nested scenes. So, Can You See My Screen podcast has guests on it. So it has a few more different scenes for the one where it's just me and another person. So, and then different title graphics and layouts. So I just kind of nest them down, and then you don't end up with a big overwhelming thing. And then when you're in BeatSheet, it's just really easy to find the right scene. Here's what Mimo Live's layer sets look like from another presentation I did. So you'll have your layers like this in Mimo Live. You'll say, okay, I'm turning these two on. Red means that they're on, gray means that they're off. And then you can just add in a layer set with the little button down here, and you can name that like main camera. We can add in another one. So here's me. I'll just change a couple of these, turn off the main camera, and add in another layer set. And now I've got like 2 layer sets. And then inside BeatSheet, you see I'm able to select from those 2 layer sets just in the same way as if it was Ecamm, and switch between them in the same way. You can control Video Pencil with BeatSheet, which gives you an awful lot. If you don't know what Video Pencil is, it lets you draw on your camera feed. It's how I'm doing this little laser pointer. It's how I can like draw things like this. It's how I can say hello and just like add a live title as I go. That's what Video Pencil gives you. It's on the iPad, lets me zoom in, lets me do all sorts. But from BeatSheet, you can select different controls. So you can do things like you can select a different camera inside Video Pencil Camera, or you can select a screen share. So this won't go to the iPad. This is just on Video Pencil Camera on the Mac app. You can open a video on the iPad and start it playing, right? In your BeatSheet document, you could add in, and I've been doing this a lot for demos. You saw it just loaded in that Mimo Live video. That is in my Video Pencil library on my iPad. All I did was made the BeatSheet document, load that in so that it was at the right point in my presentation so that I could just show you how that looks. And it's really nice to have them on the iPad, and you get some nice features. So if you wanted to have a more fancy presentation, you could actually, on the iPad, put a video on there and put pause points in there and just press play, and it will play through to the next pause point. And if there's a transition, if there's anything happening in that, if you've got some production values, you can just load that into the iPad and it will just come through via Video Pencil. And of course, it's Video Pencil, so you can switch pens. You could clear the drawing. So, okay, after this segment, we'll clear the drawing. And you can do all sorts of different things. Here's what that looks like. At the moment, it's all done with deep links. So in Video Pencil Camera, which is this app, I've opened up the shortcuts sidebar, and anything that can be selected, if you right click on it, you get a copy deep link, and that shows you what the deep link is going to be underneath. So you can just right click on anything on that sidebar, copy deep link, and then inside, we're going back to the desktop. So in here, in BeatSheet, and I am going to make this easier, but in your slide, so if you've got a slide, you can say add URL trigger, press that, and then just paste that link in here. So we're going to use a URL trigger, and that's just going to make that load just as you want. So that's basically the process. In future, it will just give you similar kind of pop for all of those commands that are in Video Pencil Camera. For now, you can do it with URL triggers. But this also means that you can open any link. So if you've got a web page you want to look at for this segment, just put an HTTP link in there, like https/ whatever, google.com. You can just make it pop up the window and also switch to your desktop at the same time. And it will take you to the right link in the right place, ready to proceed with your demo. And then anything else that has URL schemes, any app that has URL schemes to launch it into a certain state, you can just throw that in, and that's just going to work. So it's a very powerful tool. I've just given you the raw materials to launch anything, and in a future iteration, I will refine the Video Pencil Camera version. You can also use OSC. So that also sits in that little box. If we just open that up, you can add an OSC trigger, and that just like lets you set the path, lets you set the value, the port. So you can do whatever you want with anything that supports OSC. If you have a serious production situation, then you've got something that needs OSC. So that's available as well within BeatSheet. So that is an awful lot of power in there. And so there isn't a way to do at this point with it in terms of controlling your stuff. So next, I wanted to talk a little bit about video production workflow. If you do want to make a little video demo, it's really useful for that. And I do all my video production in a live way now. So what you do, you write a script, record a take, and just like rewrite. Either as you're trying to do it, you're saying the words out loud, you're realizing it's written a bit awkwardly, you quickly correct it then, or while you're watching it back, you can correct it then. Just get a take and repeat. So you sort of take another recording, and you're editing as part of the recording process as you're discovering things. You go, oh, it'd be really good to get that demo for the next take. You go away, you can record a demo and bring that in and then trigger that as you're recording. I find this a really effective way. And then just repeat that as many times as you need to until the video looks good. And it's just much easier than getting into Final Cut or DaVinci and even Descript and trying to cobble something together from a load of different takes. This way, you do a few more takes, but it flows naturally and you're learning each time. And you're not like, oh no, I need to go and record me saying this one thing now that I'm in the edit. Oh no, my camera's not set up anymore. Or, I don't have the thing plugged in the same way. It's really good to be able to just make sure you've got that full coverage as well, because you're just iterating. It can just be you sitting there, Stream Deck pedal, going into it. You can just iron out any issues as you go and not have to fix everything in the edit. And one way I like to work is by, I'm demonstrating apps. So that's like what I do a lot of. I'm building up this little library of BeatSheet scripts. So if I do make a big change to BeatSheet, I can just fire up the script again and sort of change a couple of bits, throw in a different demo for one segment, press go, start recording, and just record a new demo, reusing the videos that were already done, adding in new videos for things that are new, and update the whole video in one go. I do usually edit in Descript, but it's not really structural. It's taking out some ums and ahs. It's tidying things up a little bit. Little things can happen, but I'm not having to like figure out the content as I go. And often I've even got the titles and graphics just baked in there, so I don't even have to do that in post. I mean, the long and short of it is it really works. I mean, it certainly works for me. For a while there, I was recording 2 different podcasts back to back each Friday morning. And this really saved my bacon, just being able to switch to the different BeatSheet document and press play. Like before, I had a load of, there's a video you can find on my YouTube channel where I show how to do this in OBS. And it's like all the different scenes are mapped to different function keys on the keyboard. And then I just sort of have to remember, press this, then press this, then press this. And then I still didn't have a teleprompter. I still had to remember to do all these different things. And then when it was 2 podcasts, now I've got to like switch to a different profile. I've got to remember what's different about this one. If I only do that one every month rather than every week, then I forget what the intro is. I want to be able to just queue up the questions I want to ask and not have to break my stride as part of the interview. And so that's what BeatSheet lets you do. And, we were talking last week, even if your co-host was remote and had shoot, and you wanted to prompt them with the next question for your guests or something like that, you could literally send that from BeatSheet to someone else's. You can do it from the Shoot Studio. You can literally send them the prompt from your Mac. It will go onto their iPhone. They'll see it next to their camera and they'll be able to just read out into the camera as well. So there's an awful lot of possibilities. And I'd really love to hear what you might use it for, and if it inspires any thoughts or questions or things like that.